Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of the film Hot Tub Time Machine. Now, this is a film that I've always been a fan of. It really surprised me when it came out in 2010. I was still working at the movie theater at that time in Oklahoma when I was living with my dad, and I remember catching it while I was working at the theater and seeing it for free, and I remember having a really good time with it. And then I remember catching it a few more times on home video, rentals, and on TV. And each time it was on, I always enjoyed the film. Um, and since a friend of mine sent me the sequel, I thought it would be a good time to review the first film and then also review the sequel. Um, This is what I would consider one of the few recent comedies, like Horrible Bosses, for instance, that I really enjoyed. I do like Hot Tub Time Machine. There's like there is a little. I do have a couple problems to prevent it from being a instant classic, but I still think it's a pretty great film, honestly, for what it is. Um, Hot Tub Time Machine is a 2010 comedy, science fiction comedy. Directed by Steve Pink, and it has a screenplay by Josh Held, Sean Anders, and John Morris, and it stars John Cusack as Adam Yates, and he ended up actually signing on to the film mainly because he liked a little bit. He signed on to the cast because he liked the title. That's a big reason why John Cusack is even in the movie, which I think is kind of interesting. He just loved the title so much. I want to be in this movie. So John Cusack plays Adam Yates. Rob Corddry plays Lou, the Violator Dorchin. Craig Robinson plays Nick Weber Agnew, or just Nick Weber. Clark Duke plays Jacob Yates. Chevy Chase is in this as a repairman. You have Collette Wolfe, who plays Kelly Yates, Jacob's mother and Adam's sister. Crispin Glover plays Phil Weidmeyer, a disgruntled bellhop who only has one arm, but and it's pretty funny about what happens with this character. That's one of my favorite gags in the movie that they keep repeating. You're gonna lose that arm. You're gonna lose that arm. It's like, yeah. Sebastian Stan is also in this as Blaine, the ski patrol guy who bullies and beats up Lou. And this is the first time, the first film I remember seeing him in before The Winter Soldier, and of course before Captain America: The First Avenger. And I was like, wow, it's Blaine. It's the guy, it's the ski patrol guy from Hot Tub Time Machine. And you also have Lizzy Caplan, who plays April, who's a music journalist who ends up befriending Adam. And you also have William Zabka in this, you know, from The Karate Kid. He plays one of the a man who makes a high stakes bet with Lou in the ball in the bar, not the ball, and the ball. Yeah, they went to a ball like in Cinderella. Uh, but yeah. I just thought it was kind of fun to see William Zabka in it. And the critics actually say introducing William Zabka, which is a joke because everyone already knows about William Zabka because he was like the perennial premier bully that was in 80s movies. But anyway, Hot Tub Time Machine. It also features music by Christoph Beck. The score is nothing super memorable. That's another thing about the film that I'm just like, on. I like the choice of music that they use in the movie, though I think that makes up for it because the music they have in the soundtrack is great. It's a great soundtrack. I mean, right when the movie opens up, you have Turn Up the Radio. I need the music. Give me some more. You know, I love that song by Autograph. So it was really right off the bat when I first saw this film. I was like, I'm gonna like this. This is gonna be my movie. This is totally a movie that I'm gonna enjoy. And I like the concept of going back in time in a hot tub and then going, you know, back to the 80s. I think that's fun. And yeah, the soundtrack, you have that song, you have Autograph, you have Louder Than a Bomb by Public Enemy, you have the Safety Dance, you know, by Men Without Hats, you know, We can dance if we want to. We can leave our friends behind. Da 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 da. We can dance. We can dance. Da 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 da. I don't know the lyrics, but all the lyrics for that song, but I definitely do remember the beat, and I do like that song. Modern Love by David Bowie, um, True by Spandau Ballet. You had Push It by Salt and Pepper. You had Jesse's Girl that Craig Robinson did a cover of, which is actually pretty good. He did a cover of Let's Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas, which I actually like his cover version than the actual song. I like it better than the actual song by the Black Eyed Peas. Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue. Um, you have, of course, Hero by Enrique Iglesias. I can be your hero, baby. I can wash away the pain. And then you also have this one I really like. Once in a Lifetime by Talking Heads. As the days go by, water flowing under the blue again. Da, 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 da. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. That was a really good music choice. The whole soundtrack is actually full of really classic, good songs. Um, they did a good job picking the right music for the film. Makes up for the kind of forgettable score. The cinematography by Jack N. Green is there. It's nothing really spectacular. The editing it's pretty good for the most part, but once again, it's nothing really spectacular. Um, the film was made for about $36 million, and it made about 64.6 million in the box office. So it was a surprise, kind of a little bit of a hit, but it was a bigger hit on home video and a big enough hit that it ended up getting a sequel. But anyway, the basic gist of the film's plot is the film follows three friends who have been in a rut in their lives. Adam Yates, played by John Cusack, is dumped by his girlfriend. And I love in the beginning of the film where his girlfriend has pretty much just taken everything. She's taken a lot of his stuff, and I like the concept where John Cusack would like determine which things of his he wanted to keep with like this red dot. So he'd be like, the red dots mean that this is something I want to keep. These are my things. And his girlfriend is like, yeah, the TV had a red dot on it, but I took it anyway. And I like there's a shot later you see John Cusack sitting, in a chair with a red dot and a sticker on his forehead, drinking some beer. Um, so he's dumped by his girlfriend, and you have Nick Weber Agnew, played by Craig Robinson. He's a henpecked husband with a dead-end job at a dog spa, where he's, cleaning shit out of dogs' asses. And you have a nice, fun, uncredited cameo by Thomas Lennon, who is a customer who, was basically trying to give him shit for, his job. And then, Nick Weber, Greg Robinson really burns him by, basically, are these your keys? Because that's what was in the dog's ass, was like his keys. So he throws the shit-covered keys at the guy. And Lou Dorchin, played by Rob Corddry. This is the first film that really introduced me to those two actors, to Craig Robinson and Rob Corddry. And I really liked Craig Robinson in this, and I really liked Rob Corddry. I think this is probably the best performance I've seen from Rob Corddry. It was good too, and Pain and Gain, but this is definitely probably the most memorable performance for me, and probably the best performance if I was to choose what I would consider to be his best performance to date. It would be his performance in this. He's a party animal. He's a huge Motley Crue fan. He's hospitalized for carbon monoxide poisoning because he tries to kill himself by locking the garage door shut and gunning the engine while he's listening to Motley Crue's Home Sweet Home. And Adam and Nick then sympathetically take him, and Adam's shut-in 20-year-old nephew Jacob, played by Clark Duke, who I also thought did a solid job in this, to a ski resort at Kodiak Valley, where the three had some good times in the past. Oh shit, man, K-Val? Awesome! And during a night of heavy drinking in the hotel room's hot tub, They spill the contents of a drink on the console, and the next day they go skiing. But after too many strange occurrences, but people dressed in 80s fashion, music videos on MTV, Michael Jackson is still black. There's a guy rocking a cassette player, rocking a Walkman, and people wearing Jerry curls, and they realize they've traveled back to 1986. And not only that, they've also assumed their younger bodies. They see each other as their normal age, but in reflections into other people, they appear as they did back then, except Jacob, who appears as himself and occasionally flickers. I like this take on the traditional time travel idea. That it's not like, oh, you end up going back in time, and your self from that time is also there. So you have to make sure you don't meet with one another, so you don't like nothing bad happens. So there's no kind of paradox. I like how it didn't do that typical route. I mean, I like it. I like that. I mean, it works really well in films like Back to the Future and Time Cop. But it was nice to see that this film was like, yeah, we're gonna do something a little bit different with this time travel sort of thing. And so there's a mysterious hot tub repairman played by Chevy Chase who appears randomly throughout the film and cryptically gives them cryptic warnings about not to change anything as it might affect the machine. And in order to minimize the butterfly effect, the guys plan to reenact their experiences. And there's some fun lines, Craig Robinson, after he snorted some cocaine, he just pops up and he's like, ah, like the Terminator. It's cyclical, right? The machine sent Schwarzenegger back to kill Sarah Connor so that John Connor could never be born. And if John Connor didn't send Michael B back to protect her, then they never fuck, and John Connor ain't born in the first place. So I thought that was pretty funny. And this movie, what really prevents it from being an instant classic is that it's not consistently funny. There are times where it's just fun to watch because I really like the characters, and I think it's well written enough that you care about these characters and what happens to them, and they're fun to watch because they all have great chemistry with one another. But it's just there's not so many consistently laugh out loud hilarious moments. There's definitely better comedies out there than A Hot Tub Time Machine, but I really like it because of the cast and fun stuff like Jacob is talking to Lou and they're driving to Cave Al, and Jacob's like, for your information, I've had lots of girlfriends. Hot ones. And Lou's like, you've lots of boyfriends. Gay ones. It was like, yeah. Yeah, no, that kind of stuff. And what made that work was Lou's line delivery. And then there's, fun stuff like they Lou finds that they're in their old hotel room from back in the day, and he finds this the cabinet, drawer that says, Adam sucks cocks and dicks. It's still there. Look, Adam. I just had a fun time with Rob Corddry. I love the whole scene where he's in the hospital and his friends are there and they're like talking, basically whispering and trying. They're acting like he's still asleep, like he's asleep or he's in a coma or something. And then Nick and Adam are talking and they're like, Lou, Nick's like, Lou, why would he do this? And Adam's like, why? I mean, make a list. He's an alcoholic. He's divorced. His wife ran off with that Jamaican guy. He's failed at every jive-ass money hustle he's ever tried. He has a mountain of debt. He hates his mother. He hates himself. He hates everybody. He has erectile dysfunction. He's got halitosis. And he's got that right ball. One less ball. Shriveled up. Oh, yeah. Like a spoiled grape. I don't know. It's just like an accumulation of punishment. And then Lou just throws a pillow at him and it's like, fuck you guys! And then I love the whole thing where they're driving to Cave Al. And I like the whole thing where, Adam's talking about the girl that got away. And then everyone's like, they speak in unison, like, Great White Buffalo. Great White Buffalo. And of course, Jacob's like, what the hell? What are you guys doing? What's this Great White Buffalo? Great White Buffalo. But you stop saying Great White Buffalo. So anyway, they end up, in the 80s, and they ski. And I love the song choice in this sequence. It's Motley Crue's Kickstart My Heart. and so they're skiing to kickstart my heart, and then they crash and burn terribly, like badly. And then I love they Lou gets up and they're like they feel pretty good, like they feel alive. And I think they should be like broken up because they're older guys. Like this should be like something that's gonna like send them to the hospital type of fall. But no, they feel pretty good. And Rob's like Rob Corddry's like, I wanna fuck something. So that I just have fun with that character. I like Lou's character in this. He's an asshole, but he's a likable asshole. Um, and that's surprisingly something that's not the easiest thing to do to get right. And even the scenes in the hot tub, I think, were pretty fun. They're getting absolutely, trashed in the hot tub. And I like how there's a lot of these quick cut edits, and they show like random stuff. Like there's this guy in a bear suit who's freaking drinking, alcohol and doing the drugs. Like this guy right here, the bear. You see Chevy Chase in the hot tub with them. They turn into girls like randomly, like it just like quick cuts, and it's all these they're like hot chicks for a second. It's that kind of just craziness. And of course, then they end up in the 80s, and John Cusack, of course, he doesn't really care. He doesn't like the 80s, so he's like, we need to get the hell out of here. This is the fucking 80s. Like I hate the 80s. Lou's like, it's the fucking 80s, guys. Let's do what we want to. Free love. Jacob's like, that's the 60s, dipshit. Adam's like, we had like Reagan and AIDS. Let's get the fuck out of here, okay? Do the right thing, violator. So what they decide to avoid the butterfly effect. So they decide to reenact their experiences. So Adam has to break up with his girlfriend Jenny, played by Lizzy Fonseca, who is definitely really tight. They say she's tight, excuse me, and she definitely is tight. And he has to break up his girlfriend and get stabbed in the eye with a fork. Lou must pick a fight and get beaten up by Blaine because the ski patrol bully, because his friends don't come to back him up. Nick must have sex with a groupie and give a bad performance with his band at an open mic event. And he tries to have the sex with a groupie, and you see her top, she's topless and everything, and she's pretty hot too. And he's just crying. He's like, Courtney, Courtney, I'm so sorry, Courtney. And she's like, and she's like banging him. And he's like, Courtney, oh, Courtney. And she's like, Courtney? It's not my name. It's like, that's my wife. Your wife? You're married? No, I'm not yet. I mean, she's a kid. Just, uh, oh, man. So, and then Jacob discovers that his mother, Kelly, played by Collette Wolfe, is at the resort, but is acting rather slutty, and then, likes to snort some cocaine. And she talks about waxing some guy's pole. And I love how Jacob's like, that's not what I think it is, right? It could be something else, right? It could, like wax some poles, like ski poles at the ski resort. Maybe she's a volunteer at the ski resort, and she like helps wax the poles, help to clean the poles or something. It's like, no, 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 man. She's gonna suck some dick. So the guys then find the task rather difficult as Lou gets punched by Blaine and loses his backpack, but realizes he must face him again later that night, so he challenges him again. So that's actually what I was mentioning. He gets punched by him earlier, and then he has to challenge them, and his friends don't show up, and then he gets his ass kicked. Adam falls in love with Jenny again while meeting a music journalist named April, played by Lizzy Caplan, during the Poison concert. Nick worries about cheating on his wife, even though the events occur before he even meets her. That's where you have the whole thing where he's, banging the groupie and crying. And then later on, Lou tries to cash in on some sports betting using his knowledge of the game's outcomes. And it works until he risks everything on predicting a game-winning touchdown. And this is the infamous drive between the Denver Broncos and the Cleveland Browns. Only to have the squirrel that he vomited on earlier at the resort crash the field and ruin the play. And this is one instance of a guy having to suck another guy's dick joke that's actually handled pretty well and pretty funny. Because in this film, that's the whole bet. It makes a bet with William Zabka that he's like, I know what's gonna happen because he knows what's gonna happen, so he tries to make some easy money. And he's like, if I win, John Elway throws a touchdown pass in like the last 30 seconds of this game to win the game. Your wife gives me a blowjob. And then, of course, Billy Zabka is like, if I win, you have to give your friend a blowjob. And the girl's like, so what happens is of course, he loses because the damn squirrel. And then I love how they set it up, where it's like, okay, Rob Corddry's gonna have to suck Craig Robinson's dick, and he's like, oh, it's so huge, it looks like Gary Coleman's forearm. It's like, oh, I know. It's like, I don't, and I gotta say this, man, I love you, man. Don't say that. Don't say that. And then of course he goes to go in, he goes in to suck the dick. He's like, oh, oh, and then of course Nick's like, ah, and then like pretty much Nick passes out on top of his friend, the Violator, and falls on top of Lou, and then they wake up, and then you see Rob Corddry with like what looks like cum on his face, and he's like, oh man, oh. Did you eat some pineapple? And then of course Nick's like, oh God, no, 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 no. And then Rob Corddry, Lou's just like, oh, come on, man, it's just hand sanitizer, it's just soap. What, you never seen cum on your friend's face before? So that one actually worked because he didn't actually suck his dick. I thought that was actually pretty clever that that actually didn't happen. It was just he just made it look like he did afterwards. It was just hand soap on his face. Um, and so you have this stuff where Jenny then turns the tables, and she's the one that initiates the breakup with Adam, and then he tells her, that you're gonna go with that guy, and then you're gonna get fat. You're gonna get so fat. You're gonna have like a bunch of kids and like live in a trailer park. You're gonna have trucker hips. She's like, I didn't get fat, and then stabs him in the eye. So he can still get stabbed in the eye. And Adam then later meets April, and they get along. And this is after he's like been eating all these shrooms and taking all these drugs, and Clark Gregg, has to come in and be like, no, don't eat any more shrooms, stop. It was kind of fun to see, John Cusack, do some drugs in a movie like this. But speaking of John Cusack, there's definitely some references to some of his films from the 80s. Like there's this guy on a cellular phone who's talking about $2. He's like, my $2, which is a reference to Better Off Dead. And so then John Cusack's character, Adam, then ends up getting along with April, and I love the scenes with Adam and April. John Cusack and Lizzy Caplan are really good together. They have great chemistry with one another. They're a really good couple, and so in a way, there's kind of a little bit of a rom-com element in this film. That the romance element in this actually works really well. I thought it added to the film because I really like that relationship. I think they're a great couple. And I think Lizzy Caplan and John Cusack deliver really good, really great performances that really make that dynamic work so well. And Nick then changes his destiny by covering the more upbeat Jesse's Girl, followed by Let's Get It Started. And then the repairman later informs Jacob that some nuclear chemical was key to their time travel. And Jason realizes it was the Chernobyl, Nobly, an illegal Russian energy drink. And so the guys then rescue Lou, who was beaten up without his friends again from falling off the rooftop. And the Chernobyl is taken by Sebastian Stan and Blaine and his friend, and the guy who's like his friend, it looks exactly like C. Thomas Howell, and he's a big fan of Red Dawn, and he's all thinking that it's a bunch of commies, because it has like Russian stuff on it, the energy drink, and throughout the whole film, going back to some more of the sort of jokes, you have the Crispin Glover character who, he lost his arm in the future. And so they're in the past, and they're always waiting for him to lose his arm. and there's all these different scenes in the film where it's like it looks like he's gonna lose his arm, but it doesn't happen. And I love how, Rob Corddry's reactions to all this. It's like he's juggling with a chainsaw. He's like, "Oh, this is gonna happen. Oh, this is it. This is it. Oh!" And then it doesn't happen, and he's like, "Boo!" So yeah, he goes in and he basically has a problem, with him losing that. He wants him to lose his arm. He's like, "You're gonna lose that arm." He's like, "If that guy doesn't lose his arm soon, I'm gonna fucking take it from him myself." And then there's the whole stuff where they first meet him again, and they grab him because they ended up in the past, and they're checking him to make sure, it's because he has two arms, and they're like ganging, they're like on top of him, grabbing him, and he's like, "Are we raping? Are we raping?" Yeah, there's never been times that a rape joke is funny. Rarely, if ever, but this actually worked pretty well, I thought, because they're all on top of him and grabbing his arm and pulling him, and he's like, "Are we raping?" It's just Crispin Glover's line delivery of that line that cracks me up. And then later in the film, he meets up with John Cusack, who's like on a drug trip, and he's dressing up like Hunter S. Thompson, which in reality he's actually knows Hunter S. Thompson in person. John Cusack himself actually is acquainted with Hunter S. Thompson. And so here comes Crispin Glover being like, "I'm gonna rape you! I'm gonna rape you! You're gonna lose that arm!" And then John Cusack is like, "Yeah, we're gonna rape you. You're gonna lose that arm. Yeah, you're gonna lose that arm. Yeah, I'm gonna lose that arm." Oh, you guys are great. So anyway, going back to Sebastian Stan's character, he's obsessed with 80s, action movies. He's watching Red Dawn on the television. He has a Red Dawn movie poster. He's got a poster for White Knights on his wall, which is kind of funny. White Knights was Mikhail Baryshnikov and Gregory Hines, the ballet dancing movie. There's more than just ballet dancing in that, though. There's actually a little bit of action and intrigue in that. There's one problem with that particular sequence, though. He has a poster of Rambo 3 on the wall, and this is supposed to take place in 1986, and Rambo 3 came out in 88. But it's a little goof that doesn't really bother me that much, but it is noticeable. It doesn't bother my enjoyment of the film. It's just something I definitely do notice. So anyway, they realize they gotta go to get the Chernobyl back from Sebastian Stan, and so Lou ends up going up against Blaine, and he has to get convinced by his friends about how he's gonna do it. You got to do it. You got to kick the guy. You got to kick his ass. And Adam is trying to give him a pep talk, and he's talking to Adam and Nick are helping him trying. His friends are trying to give him a pep talk, and this is a pretty fun scene where Adam's like, "Listen to me, man. That guy's pummeled you again and again." Nick's like, "He made you his little bitch. He's humiliated you, emasculated you. The wheel of fate has stopped and dumped you here again, utterly defeated." And Lou's like, "None of this is helping me at all. I know. It's coming. It's coming right now. Patience. Maybe you're supposed to do something different. What is this? Girl?" Blaine's like, "What is this? Girl talk? Let's go. Come on. You're better than him. America!" Maybe by not a lot, but a little. You're the patron saint of the totally fucked. You're completely toxic. There's nothing you can't kill. You're the fucking violator. The moment's over. Let's go. You can do this. You can get us the fuck out of here. You can be the hero. And Nick's like, "Enrique fucking Iglesias." And I was like, "You love that song, don't you?" And Lou's like, "I love that fucking song!" And then Lou gets up to Enrique Iglesias, launches himself one-footed off the couch at Blaine. "I can be your hero, baby. Dun, dun, dun. I can wash away the pain. And then Blaine moves out of the way in slow. And this is all in slow mo. And then punches Lou in the stomach and then in the face, knocking him to the ground. And then Adam's like, shit. And Lou's like, God damn it! None of that what you said worked at all. And then he just ends up saying fuck it and just fucking tackles him, spears Blaine, and then starts beating the shit out of him to kickstart my heart again, and kicks his ass. They get the Chernobyl, and then they return to the hot tub where they create a vortex. Uh, but actually, before that, of course, they find out that they get that. They go to Blaine's cabin to search for the drink, during which Lou finds and seduces Kelly. The guys realize that Lou is actually Jacob's father. Lou finally punches Blaine, where the whole hero sequence I was mentioning. They retrieve the Chernobyl, return the hot tub with the creative vortex. Jason and Nick then get in the tub, but Lou decides to stay in 1986, admitting he had indeed attempted suicide before. And Adam volunteers to stay with Lou, but is thrown into the vortex. And I like that scene because it shows, and that's kind of how well I thought, that's a good example of how well the film was written. Josh Held, Sean Anders, and John Morris, they really did a good job writing the film in a way, especially when it comes to these characters. And I think the film really does a great job showing the importance of friendship. And that's kind of what this whole journey is to solidify their friendship and to make these longtime friends realize why they're friends and why this is a friendship that should continue, why this is something that they should work as hard as they can to keep relevant and to keep their friendship intact. And so this film definitely has a heart, and that's another reason why I like it so much. There's some gross out, crass humor in it, but it also has a really good heart to it, and that goes a long, long way for me. And so Lou throws Adam into the vortex. Then you flash forward to the present time. Adam, Nick, and Jacob discover that Lou has changed history by founding Lugal. Instead of Google, it's Lugal, and he's enjoying a luxurious lifestyle with Kelly. Adam discovers that he's happily married to April, and Nick discovers he is a successful music producer married to a loyal and loving Courtney. And he doesn't have the name Agnew anymore. It's Nick Weber. The guys then reunite at Lou's mansion with their families, satisfied with their new lives. And during the film's closing credits, Lou is shown to be the frontman of Motley Lou and sings in the video Home Sweet Home, which is originally, the Motley Crue song. And the way that's all set up with, it totally looks like the music video. They did an excellent job editing that and putting that together. So, yeah, that's Hot Tub Time Machine. I mean, sure, there's other fun lines of dialogue that I might not have mentioned, or some, other funny scenes, like the whole scene when Nick Weber basically calls his daughter, not his daughter, he calls his wife when she's a little girl, and just starts yelling at her, and this is what ends up, helping her stay faithful to him. Because she's talking about, oh no, I never cheat on you, like, because of that crazy. Remember that crazy stalker who called me when I was like 8, so it was actually him. But that was a fun scene. All in all, it's just a fun movie. I like Hot Tub Time Machine a lot. Whether it's the theatrical version or the unrated version, they're both really fun. I think Steve Pink did a great job directing the movie. The performances by the cast are all great. The writing is good. And like I said, the only problems I really have with the movie is that it's not consistently laugh out loud hilarious. There's a little bit of some pacing issues. And, but other than that, it's about it. I mean, then there's some little bit too, like the stuff with the squirrel, like him barfing on the squirrel, I didn't really need. But, for the most part, though, I like it. That's why, I'm glad to have it in my collection, and it's a film that I've watched probably at least half a dozen times already. It's definitely a movie that I would consider one of my go-to comedies when it comes to films that have come out, in the past few years, for instance. And Yeah, I think it's definitely deserving of its cult status because it is starting to get a cult status. It kind of started to get that after the film was released. Um, but anyway, everything else to say about the film, except it's a rate out of 4 out of 5 stars. I give it 4 out of 5. I said it's a great film. It's what I consider a great movie. It's not an instant classic. It's not the greatest comedy ever, but it is one of the greats. It is a great film for what it is, for me personally. But anyway, thank you for watching my review of Hot Tub Time Machine, and I will see you guys later. See ya.